Welcome to Assertiveness, the show that gives ordinary South Africans the space to talk about things that really matter. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing why South Africans, or Africans in general, like to be like Americans. What is going on? Do we not have our own cultures and identity as Africans that we have to go and borrow or copy and paste things that Americans are doing, or even not even just Americans, the Western world? In studio today, we're joined by some fresh-looking people. Clearly, they didn't go turn up last night. Did you guys turn up last night? No. Not turn up. Nikulile. Yes. I'm turn ups, Lana. All right, guys, I want to jump straight into this because I feel like it's quite a vast conversation that we're going to have. We can talk straight from culture to mannerisms to the way we bring up children right now, and as there's certain African ways to do things, and then there's Western world ways of doing things, Western medicine, there's quite a big space in this. But for us today, I would like us to walk off this studio. I almost said stage because Ratawadi superstar.
The world is a stage.
The world is your stage.
This is your stage.
Yes, this is our stage to be assertive. Definitely, we need to walk off here today having a conclusion in terms of: is it because African ways are weak? Is it because African ways are not cool enough? That's why or is just being African too ethnic and too black, if I can say it like that? Is it too black? We'll start with introductions. I want to do something quite tricky today, I think. I want you to speak in your own language. Let's not speak in English. I want to see if people can introduce themselves in their own language. Because it's easy to sit here and introduce yourself in English. And my name is Nicolette Mashile. I'm from so and so and so and so. This is what I do. Can you do it in your own language? Yeah. It is hard, but I think, what is it? I'm going to try. It's fine. It's Dumelang Dama, because I'm actually Kimopulana. I'm not even Sutu. And a lot of people don't even know Sipulana. We speak it there in Bushbuckridge, in Bushbuckridge, I feel like could be a province in South Africa. It's so vibrant. So it's vibrant people. And we speak Kasipulana. I can introduce myself as Pulana. Dumelang, Kina Nicolette Ramashile, Kijago Bushbuckridge, ki host the Assertiveness. Luhono, mo studio, dule batwai trena, batorobotsa kapo mang, batwakai, bamakaingi. I was Pulana Kastayashem. Skawara. Kaskhona nasichangana shona ndashitiba sesi ndashizama sichangana ndani introduce sichangana nithame na sesi lana.
We don't want to isolate the guests.
No, it's not isolating the guests. I think it ties in very well with the conversation that we're going to have. Granted, we all know English is a business language, English is a global language, and I think we will touch on that a little bit about talking about globalization in general, because we can't really stay being African also, we need to blend in with the rest of the world. So we're gonna do this, we're gonna try it. Tell us who you are, where you're from, utumengani, labakwazi, kaslako, tumengani, but in your language.
Okay, igama lami nguCharlotte waKwaZungu, aka Manzini. Ngiphuma eKempton Park, ngazalelwa eThekwini eMpumbulu. Ngisebenza industry yabantu abenza imoto, the best imoto eyikhona, but ngenza mina kuthiwa ngi-sales and marketing coordinator yaleyo company.
Hawu siyabonga sisi. Hey Thekwini Zulu. How puti siyabo?
I need to summon.
Yenza wena puti. Yes. Always ama ancestors wakho.
Igama nguRichmond Sajini, ndinguRhadebe umthimkhulu. I am ndingumXhosa kodwa ndisuka eNorthern Cape. Abazali bona basuka eNtshona Koloni kodwa mina ndisuka eNorthern Cape. Umsebenzi wami ndingumculi and ndilento ebizwa yipublicist. Andiyazi ngesiXhosa, but ndi-publicist and andizuthi uba ndisebenza kwii-brands ezinjani, but umsebenzi wami lowo.
Siyabonga bhuti ukuthi wena uyi-publicist uzositshela namhlanje ukuthi what's the difference between i-publicist ne-PR practitioner. Ngoba mina I feel like in South Africa people don't know the difference. We borrowed the word And I think we borrowed the word publicist from American and Western culture, but we don't really practice what a real publicist is. Sisi wena wakuphi vela udumengane kasi lakho?
Dume ngokujaya.
Yebo.
Ngu Ayanda. Yaya on fire.
Okay. Ayinagama ngesiZulu, Yaya on fire. Yaya umlilo. Yes, Yaya uyatsha.
Ovuthayo kahle ushisa nina.
Okay. Yes.
Ngi brand ambassador.
Okay.
Ngumculi.
Nawu umculi. Nizoshayela iduet nyana. Okay. Oh, it wasn't vai.
Yabo, Sinto Zames.
Imparile.
Okay.
Maraki constructive sentence.
Yeah, I think one of these good days we need to have a conversation on assertiveness about language. Sihwa listen sakari ngo madoda. Siswakari ngo sihwa today. But batho bari introduce ka language ya bona ba tlholega. Hey
kunzima guys, don't publicize ngesixhosa.
Asazi phela but isibuza wena.
Diamond yazi.
Kaloku it's your
only consultant.
Consultant. Kopaka okay.
Yabo, that's the one thing I love about my language because the says the consultant. Done.
Guys, I think we should go straight into the conversation that we had, but I think this was a good start to see how a lot of people at home, and I know people are sitting at home probably judging us right now, but there are people at home who also can hardly construct these sentences, a paragraph in their own, they can't count. I mean, other people can't do it, in their own languages. And I think it's one of the most important things that tends to make us then rely a lot on Western culture, Western ways, Western practices. I mean, the other day I was explaining to people that my sister is just graduating now. She graduated a few weeks ago from initiation school, which is a circumcision school. People were like, what? People still do that? And I was like, yeah. Also, the initiates from the Xhosa guys who are initiates, people are like, they're killing children. They're killing children without giving people the platform to talk about these things. Yeah. So because it's not allowed, but now at schools we want to have, what do they have in these American colleges? Frat houses. Yes. Having a frat is cool, yes, but we can't take kids to initiation school. So for me, it's terrible. I just want to get you guys' ideas and thoughts around the idea. Have we become too American or too Western?
Yeah. Especially young people right now. I don't think they even connect or want to, associate themselves with e culture. Because even the concept of Shisimpebo, I just discovered now, I saw my, I hadn't practiced or anything. And then I saw my dad do it and I was like, this is actually prayer.
Like, hey, wenzani?
Yeah. You're like, but it's actually a prayer. So what is it? Do we rely on religion, Christianity or whatever? Because it's not the African way of doing things, because you're not, the better way of connecting to your gods. That's also another westernized thing, religion. So religion versus tradition, connecting to your ancestors. Now your ancestors aren't even, your
and now you're calling them, hey, my man. Sup, man. Like, so, that job.
Yeah.
Open my path.
The downs.
The downs.
So what you're saying is that now our ancestors can't even recognize us.
Yeah, because even when we speak to them, you're like, hi, Abagankosi.
Do people even say that?
Can you please light my ways?
Yeah, my man, no homie.
The downs.
The downs, yes.
To your downs.
Down under.
The rest of the undies. In the underworld, please look after us. Out here.
It's not happening. Rich, do you think we've kind of...
I think we have kind of become westernized, and I think the reasoning behind that is because the Western propaganda machine is so well oiled. I think we are fed images of the Western world to an extent where like when you're listening to radio, people are shocked when you hear a South African song on South African radio. And it shouldn't be that way. So I think in terms of media, we get fed a lot of images from the US, from, you know, Western countries, and that sort of manifests in our minds that this is the culture. So we end up following that. So I think we definitely, to an extent, have become westernized, and it's not always by choice.
I agree. Madam?
I think we are westernized. But I think, to be fair on us as South Africans, I mean, think about it. Our parents are probably the last parents that know our languages the way that they should, like properly. And they taught that to us. But now, post 1994, you're coming into a society where now we're allowed into these schools and we can play with white children. Now our parents are allowed to work managerial positions. And now you have this fight of, oh, but I have to look like that to now fit into this world. But at the same time, I have to teach my children the language. But if my child comes home speaking English, I'm going to say, oh, well done, you learned how to speak English. So I can't counter that. It's a very difficult position that we're in post 1994. What then happened afterwards is now us just consuming then, the media feeding that even more to us. So I think he is right, yeah.
So is it the media culture that is creating this dilemma that we're sitting in? And in actual fact, I'm calling it a dilemma, and I'm in my head, I'm saying to myself, but really, is it a problem? Is it a problem that we are becoming more Western and more Americanizing things?
I would say...
Okay.
I would... Girl, let me talk. I think it becomes a challenge because the fact that we are now adopting the Western ways is sort of almost like we're saying the African ways are wrong and the Western way is the correct way, which is not always the case. So there it becomes a challenge. But then in terms of us being global citizens, the challenge is how do we keep our Africanness but still maintain that ability to be global citizens, to be, you know, that is, I think, the challenge. So I think it is a problem when we are losing ourselves, but I think it's also a challenge if we are too set in our ways that we can't, you know, take part in what is happening globally.
Yep. You know what my thing is? Gakulu in South Africa, we imitate and the US so much that we can't even import our talent.
Yes, export.
They can't go anywhere.
Because you're sending a diluted version of, you know, Ray Sherman, you know, to the US. They already have that kind of band, you know, and they celebrate actually our Africans, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, when they send their stuff that side, they pop because the outer world wants to know what we're doing, you know. They want to know our culture, they want to know what makes us who we are. And if you see Nigeria, they are killing. They collaborate with like really big stars because they bring in a different element. But you can't take a South African artist and make them collaborate with someone because they sound exactly like that person. So what exactly are you selling them? Because they're the creators of
the masters.
Yes. So how are you gonna take someone who is a student and pair them with a master and try to create a hit? So my problem is that we can't sell ourselves because we aren't ourselves.
I'm actually very glad that you touched on it because that's the one thing I wanted to touch on. Our artists, you know, are our artists copying exactly what the US is doing or the Western world? You know, are they copying it, and are we happy with what we are receiving? Are they giving us their best?
I don't think we're happy at all because if you look at it, they hardly ever reach gold with this American sound. They hardly ever, there's not a lot of, how can you call it, superstars. We don't have superstars. Like Brenda Fassie was probably the last superstar I knew. So they're not even getting that far with what they are having now. We do have a problem with it. That's why we don't have a problem copying it. That's why we don't have a problem. I mean, think about it. Hugh Masekela, before you make a copy of that, you really think, ooh, okay, am I really doing this? This is golden. This is a prize.
Anybody else see this? Yeah.
So I really think we do have a problem with it. We just don't know it yet. Yes, it's nice when we go out because we think, oh wow, we can take the biggest hip hop guy and he can go to America and be just like them. But that's not what they need. On a macro level, we're gonna embarrass ourselves. Yes. And on a micro level with us, with artists, we're not happy. Even just the whole westernized thing, it's putting us in such a difficult position. We're being pulled this side and this way.
But quick question then. My question is, if you were saying we are copying and we need our own, our own superstars, the genre of music that we like, what is South African? What genre of music is South African? So we're talking about Kwaito, but
yes.
I don't feel like we should box it, because even in the Western world you have various genres of music. Yeah. So we don't need to box it and say this is what South African music is. I feel like we can start our own sort of we have our own sort of genres that is sort of like what African music is, but not a definite thing that you can say that, okay, this is now African. I think there are many artists such as Lyra, who's one of my favorite artists. I think she is sort of doing something that is different, but you can't really box it and say this is African, but her whole brand is I'm an African musician. But the music itself, when you listen to it, you can't say, oh, this is African, or this is this, or this is that. So I don't think there's a specific thing that you can point out and say, okay, this is South African music.
Do you then don't think that, look, we granted hip-hop culture comes from America, we can't deny that fact. And I found that in South Africa, we do copy a lot of things. And my question is, if we copy hip-hop from Americans, do we have to sound like them? Can we not take our hip-hop and make it, make South African hip-hop? Yeah.
Yeah, perfect example would be Tear Gas.
Yes.
Tear Gas for me was the first hip-hop group that came out, and I thought, wow, these guys are South African. It's not a copy of, I can hear it's hip hop playing, but it's not a copy of anything I've heard in America. They're not talking about false guns and the projects. We don't have, I'm a project.
Project, township, location, compound.
The A1 baby project.
Yeah, so they were talking about things that we can relate to. I'm a big room and this and that, and then Pro Kid. Those were people that said, okay, we want to do hip hop, but we want to do South African hip hop. Talk about our struggles, Mandela money, and whatever else. So for me, there is a way of doing hip hop in a South African way. You don't have to be yo the man, It's really unnecessary. Yeah.
I hear you. Okay, guys, when we come back, I want us to go a little bit deeper than just, what we take for face value. I want us to talk about language. I want us to talk about the way we dress, what we perceive as beautiful, or what we perceive as a good-looking woman or a good-looking man. I think that those are the kind of things that, for me, carry more substance. I think things like music, and as you said, it's what we fed, what we're being fed by media. And as much as we think we are liberated people, we can think for ourselves. There are certain things that even in your home, when you are by yourself, fire weave, you look at yourself, you're like, killing it, I'm bringing it today. Slay it, fleek, I'm on fleek. But when you've got your short hair, you think, ish, I'm so African. You know what I mean? So when we come back from the short ad break, I wanted to discuss just that. Everybody at home, stay tuned in. Welcome back on Assertiveness. We are talking about American culture or Western culture and Africans and how we've boxed ourselves, man, to become Americans. So when I go to yo, when a man actually these days, hey mommy, what? Hey mommy, I come back to hey mommy, king, hey mommy, yo girl, ngoma makho mna, chini, say sisunjani. How say, you know what I mean? Like, can you shell at me properly? Like, I mean, really. But we've spoken quite a lot about, the artists, the media. I want us to start talking about things that make us Africans. And that is what we're trying to dilute. The way we dress. I mean, we've got Americans now wearing dashikis. How often do you see South Africans wearing dashiki?
You don't. Like, even for me, I'm wearing a turban today, and I often do. And walking down the street, a lot of people will turn around and look, because it's not something that they're used to. But I think it's such an African thing to, even when you're wearing African prints, it's like, oh, you're so beautiful. And I think it has become, we dress so westernized that our African attire only comes out when there's a wedding or when there's like a special occasion. And that is a problem. In America, American fashion is cool for them because they're so proud in everything that they produce. I think that's one of the things that now also makes the dashikis almost like it's something new for us. Yes. We've had it for a long time, but now we see Beyonce posting a selfie wearing a dashiki, posting a picture on Instagram, and now all of a sudden you walk down Joburg, everyone is wearing an orange or a blue dashiki.
Yes. It's almost like we need a stamp of approval from
Americans.
Yes, Americans.
It's like they decide what is cool.
Yes, so we don't think our Sishweshwe and Kosawe and whatnot are high fashion until some international brand takes it and sells it internationally on the runway, and we're like, actually,
like the bucket hat.
Exactly.
Yes. Like it was a sport.
So now it's a bucket hat.
How?
Like yes. So but you touched on
saying until Beyonce wears it. Is it because also maybe our so-called celebrities are failing us? Because, I mean, we look up to them, you know what I mean? There's an element, in as much as we hate them, I think South Africa is probably the one country that bashes their celebrities, you know? If there are celebrities, because we also don't believe that we've got celebrities in South Africa, but we do bash those who are available to us to call celebrities, you know?
I think with what Yaya said, that many times our artists are just carbon copies of what is already out there. Okay. So we don't feel like they're giving us anything that we don't already have. So that is like we want our celebrities to make things cool. Yes. Like we want to be able, yes, we want to be able to say, we didn't start Bona Ipanama on American runways. Oh, someone in South Africa did it. You know, we want our own people to make our own things cool. Our own culture must be cool to ourselves.
So I'm actually crying out there to all of you at home who call yourselves celebrities. I know you're watching this show because we are so cool on the show. Please, can you make our things fashionable and
retail stores as well?
Yes, I was going to touch on that. Is government failing us by bringing the likes of Cotton on? I don't know if it's JJ South African.
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Because it's from the Ackerman brand, isn't it?
Australian.
I think it's Australian.
Cotton, JJ's, and then it was Zara. Are there not enough South African shops that are South African that understand South Africans?
Yes. Those that were there don't last that long.
That's what I was gonna say. We had to wait for, like I said, high fashion to give us a stamp of approval. Yeah. Now it's there. Now we're looking at it. Okay, actually, you can wear a flared skirt with African print to the office. So you don't need to wear a pencil skirt just the way they do in Europe to be taken seriously. Now those shops can flourish, but they dead now. Where are they? Because that one in Rosebank.
Well.
Even with the international retail stores, I mean, yes, whatever Edcon or whatever shop is from, let's say, Europe, but they are supplying to who? South Africans. They will need to give us what we want. And there's a buyer somewhere in there that works there who's responsible for what's in our stores. Why isn't that guy saying, give us pants with African prints? Why is it not in our faces? Why don't I walk into Woolworths and I'm just seeing colors like that?
Funny you say that. My sister was actually a buyer at some time in her life, and I used to ask her to say, Kantinina, why don't you source from South African designers? Yes. You know, and I think, I mean, she never really answered that question.
I don't think it's government that failed us, because when you do a lot of those courses that are supplied by government, so about YH and all that, they say, Uguti, for us to find you funding, to give you funding and all that, you need to, if you're going to start a label, you need to show us how you're going to make it a South African textile industry thing, you know, so that we can export a South African product. So government is pushing, Uguti, we must make our own things and export it. Not Uguti, we must say, Uguti, oh, I want to buy a franchise, so please fund me, I want to buy a franchise, and you're buying a franchise. They want you to do something South African and send it out.
Oh, that is very interesting. I salute government. But then now here's the difficulty. You're pushing out a South African brand. Nobody is, the market is just saying we're not interested. How should we not force then our celebrities, the people that we know people look up to take up on these young designers and say, make me a range? You know what I mean? Is it not also our responsibility, not only as people who are not celebrities, but as normal people, to say, you know what? Ngizoyigqoka ilabel yaka Ayanda mina, and I'm going to push ilabel yaka Ayanda because first of all it's made in South Africa, therefore it is South African.
You know, it's always so strange to me that even when you look at the red carpets in South Africa, South African awards events, many of the South African celebrities are wearing South African labels, but the clothes are such carbon copies of the American things.
And also price tag.
Yes.
I mean, back in the day, maybe now South African designers are a bit lenient, but back in the day, getting a proudly South African skirt from that one brand we all knew with the fruit on it. Yeah, I mean a bracelet would be like 900 rand or whatever, and on top of, and then if I see my maid from China from my shop in town, 30 rand for a skirt, I'm gonna buy that skirt for 30 rand. They weren't meeting us halfway or trying to compete with the prices that the international brands are bringing. Sure, they're still up and coming, but if they band together and try something, then maybe we would have bought, because we did like those African things. We're still seeing them, but I'm not gonna pay 800 rand for a bangle, you know. So also it was that the government didn't think it out almost. You know, there's that company Proudly South African or whatever. They should have come together and
state-owned agency called Brand South Africa. That company, it's so cute.
But my thing is, we would be more willing to support African brands because they know us also.
They
you know,
understand.
they understand what we want. They understand even our bodies. Have you tried to fit into a European size thing? And they say, yeah, it's a size 32, it might be size 8, and then you're just like jumping into it. You're just like, I'm trying to fit. You know, we are not those slender, Maikwela fella people. We are curvy. We are all that. And there are people who are slender, but the making of an African woman, most African women are curvy and whatnot. So I feel like the South African brands are at an advantage because they deal with us directly. They see us daily. They know what to, yes, they should be able to cater to what an African woman is, you know. And because they would understand that, we would go and
are advertising agencies also failing us? Because, you know, advertising agencies, obviously, some of them are advertising brands that are not South African, but then they also apply an American understanding of advertising. Like, I can't think at the top of my head right now of brands that are being advertised like that, but are they failing us? Are they doing a good job? Should it start there? Because we're pushing what we want to see on TV, Kaloko.
They, you know, they portray to the public what the perception of an African person is from outside. So the ads are always us jumping, dancing, or we laughing too much at stupid things. They don't make us look cool.
We dance for the band, we dance for food, we dance for airtime, we dance for washing powder, we dance for everything.
And then when we express ourselves with these people, it's like, no, make us look cool so that the people out there can buy into us, because people buy into what looks cool, what they can, you know, relate to, what they want to show to the next person. So if you make me look like how is the next person
supposed to? There's actually a brand that did a very awesome ad about being South African. They've got like like overseas people talking about the things that are normal in South Africa, you know, like load shedding. And I think that brand portrayed us so well, and we all related it. It would be nice if other, you know, brands kind of moved in that direction. Okay, guys, let's quickly talk about language. Have we also, you know, we started off the show by trying to introduce ourselves in our own languages, but I think we didn't get really deep into how language builds us and makes us, you know, because I feel like globally, as you said, we need to be a global people. We need to be part of what's happening in the world. And I always hear, you know, there's some people that you Google and you've got their global shaper. You know, I want to understand, how can we use our language, you know, in terms of naming brands, you know, exactly, in terms of naming our brands, you know, how can we use our language to find a space for us globally?
I think we need to normalize it. It should be normal for us. Like, we it's so easy for us to say, oh, it's an Hermes bag, oh, it's an Audemars Piguet watch. But if you have a name that is in Chivenda, all of a sudden people are struggling. It's because we've normalized that it's so easy to say those things. Let's normalize our own African words and our own African sayings. I think that is the way that we sort of get to a point where we manifest.
Because we've got a lot of nice things as Africans going for us. I mean, mannerisms and our little language things. I mean, in the world, if you go to Europe, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't. They're not going to understand what that is. We need to take those things and globalize them and make them normal. Firstly, also with language, if we're not learning it in schools, firstly, how far are we going to get with the language fight?
And we've just introduced Mandarin.
Exactly. But we're still fighting for Isipedi and everything else to come into. So I think we need to start with the schools, also introduce our language, and then also get different people in South Africa to learn languages. It must be a must. You must know sign language or Zulu as an Indian guy, as a white guy. It's just something that we need to do. Then if we all know it, then we can normalize it and take it globally. At
home as well. Why is it an achievement when I can speak English, but it's not as great an achievement when I'm speaking in isiXhosa? It should, like, parents need to be careful of making the fact that your child is so fluent in English. Yes, it shouldn't be an amazing thing. That shouldn't be the only measure of the intelligence of your child. The fact that your child can be fluent in their mother tongue, that should also be an achievement. That should be the achievement.
Part of that.
Yes.
Like, we need to teach ourselves, and the young ones need to learn our culture as well. You know, what Isisutu is comprised of, what this is, you know, so that they're able to teach the next person when they go to school, because we're becoming an interracial nation. We're blending with one another. So I need to be able to go tell my Portuguese friend, yo, it's a Zulu, in Zulu culture, this is what we do in here. But I can't, because, you know, we don't learn those things at home. At home, when we get there, we're watching TV, which shows international stuff. We're listening to the radio, mom is cooking. She's saying, no, stop. How? Stop. I
think also in terms of our cultural and traditional practices, I think we've gotten to a point where our elders are not very forthcoming with knowledge. So maybe if you're doing something and you ask, okay, so what's the purpose of this? It's almost like you're questioning the culture, or you're being disrespectful. And that's not always the case. The thing is, we want to learn. We want to be able to teach our children like our cultural and traditional norms. But we can't, because we don't see the point, because when we ask, it's almost like you're being disrespectful. So
and we don't include them when we're doing those rituals and everything, because you'll find it, we're going to go hlaba in, you know, and then the kid wants to know, but why? You don't say, okay, today we're doing this, there was an event like this, we're giving thanks, and you know, and then once, like me, now I'm stuck. My parents have both passed away. I don't know some of the things. If I have a child, I don't know if it's a goat I'm slaughtering, if it's a this, why am I doing it? What is imbeleko? I don't know those things, because when I asked, I was just shut out, you know. And that's why kids will find African things so frustrating and just, you know, don't follow it at all. Because I don't know why it's there. Oh, why am I getting cut, Lana? You know, nobody wants to explain.
It's really, really tough being African. Clearly, well, from the 3 guests that we've got today, it clearly is tough being an African child, because we don't have people who are passing down, you know, our rituals, our customs, our learnings, our values, our morals. We then, where do we look? Where do we look? We have to look on what TV shows us. We have to copy somebody. So naturally, we are copying what we see on TV. When we come back, I want us to talk a little bit about what are the coolest things of being African, you know, that Americans will never understand, or the Western world will never understand. And, you know, like the types of food we eat, because I'm just like, you know, there's certain burgers that have been introduced to South Africa that don't mean anything to me. I don't understand them. But yeah, let's come back and let's talk about the nuances of being African and being South African. The cool things, you know. I'm sure there's cool things, guys. Guys at home, don't go away. Please stay tuned in. We're going to go into a very exciting segment of the show. Haha, boom. We are on Assertiveness, the show that gives ordinary South Africans a space to talk about things that really matter. Today we're talking about being an African child and stop copying this American life. I wanted to say a very big word, but I'm going to keep that word thin. At this part of the show, I want us to talk about what is so great about being African and South African. What are the coolest things that we've got that, you know, Americans in the Western world will never understand, and we need to make that cool.
My biggest one is how genuine our community spirit is. So on the negative, mob justice, but on the positive, one word. You just need to shout one word if you're in a public space and you're in danger. Someone runs off with your phone, you're like, Vimba! Vimba! And you're set for life. Everyone is running in that direction. They'll ask later, you're just like, Vimba!
That's very sweet.
On my first day in Joburg, that's actually what happened. I was in the CBD and someone screamed Vimba and they were running after this guy. I did not understand what was happening. A mass of people just came and I just started praying. I'm like, oh my God.
You were not that guy, right?
No, I wouldn't be alive. Anyway, so it was scary, but I definitely agree. Our general sense of caring for one another and our well-being. And I think our food is great. Oh my God, our food. I'm closer. Like, one of my favorite things is ulusu and umushu. Like, can I have that for the rest of my life?
English, please.
Ulusu and umushu.
Something must be tripe there.
It's tripe and sampan beans.
Oh, okay, tripe
But
and
it doesn't sound as appetizing.
Oh, it's a thing.
It doesn't sound as appetizing in English.
Yeah, when you say tripe to people, people are like,
Can I tell you that it's the best?
For me, I think it's our strong sense of family. As Africans, we are very close. I mean, you'll find with other races and other cultures, people don't mind saying, oh, my brother, I haven't seen him in 12 years. He moved to Australia. And, you know, for us, if I cannot not see my sibling for over 12 years, or my mom lives in wherever, in Russia, and I've been here for... We don't have that. I love the fact that uncles are that close, cousins are that close. We have a strong support structure. If something goes wrong at home, I don't have to go, okay, mom, you're ruining my life. I'm going to go live on the street. I've got my uncle, I've got my aunt, and they're not going to say, ooh, I don't want to get involved. They are my family. They are going to get involved. And the last thing is step.
And then the funny thing is, I think for me, the craziest thing is the fact that we all know the same step. Like, you know, where are we going? Puti, mnandi hamba. I think that's actually one thing.
We didn't rehearse it. Yes. Exactly. None of us rehearsed. It's just the African thing. You see one, you already know when they're turning and everything.
Is it not crazy? Because you talked about how our parents don't filter down, you know, the African things, the rituals that they do, but man, they filter down a step. What was fun step was fun in the, you know, festivity.
Dance is our culture.
Yes.
But I think another cool thing is also the way we speak. Like, there are certain things that you can say and do in South Africa that you cannot do. Like a parent, like if you are in trouble with your parents can say yay, and you'll know. You will know. So those are some of the things that I think are really cool about this.
We have a loose tongue. Yeah, we also have a loose tongue. We can speak any language. We could probably speak Mandarin if we wanted to. You know, we can speak any language. Yes.
So it's pretty alright. Let's speak Mandarin. Let's speak Mandarin better than the guys there in that small
English than the British, and we speak better English than the Americans.
I love Gussie culture. Yes. I love how whether you're in Tembisa, Alex, Soweto, you have this Gussie thing. Each Gussie has its language, like it's Pantula. And when you get to a place, you all know what's a lower sekasi. Yeah, lower sekasi. Even if akso sekasi lako, you know what's o sekasi though. The way they behave, just like a little, the way they walk, the way it's just like, oh, Sagi. Yes.
Africans are the only people who greet with otherwise.
Yeah. Greeting, guys. Dude. I don't even know what fere means, but I know what it means. You know what? I know when I hear it, I'm like, okay, they're greeting. But if you had to ask Fede King, you know, it's a guy. But I think also the Vuvuzela has, and for me, what I like about the Vuvuzela is that it's banned in other countries. They can ban it all they want, but in Africa, we kept it. We kept it in South Africa. And as much as, I mean,
For friendly games. Everywhere, you just out here.
That's it. And then color blocking. Does color blocking come from South Africa?
I think it does. Our flag is a color block on its own.
On its own. It's winning that. It's winning that fight. It's winning that fight. You're not a fan of color blocking?
Oh no, it's serious. No.
Africa is a rich and colorful country.
I think you can. You don't have to match your colors, but I think you should. Your colors should complement each other. Yes, color block.
I believe in matching. I'm old school. Red shoes, red top, red bag, black pants, or yellow shoes, yellow bag.
If you're gonna throw in a red shoe, have
no red footy somewhere in there.
I think actually,
I think color blocking is eye pollution.
The family thing that Charlotte mentioned earlier, I love how your blood does not.
It's not just because it's not limited to people in your family.
It's not bound. Those aren't your boundaries. Because I confuse people. People think I'm a liar. Because I've literally got a little sister. But every day I'm teasing with, oh, my brother. No, and then my other brother. They're like, I thought you only have a little sister. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so he's my cousin. But like, I call them my brothers. Yeah, I don't go into that whole thing. You're good to no. My uncle's child. No, that's my brother. And if you touch my brother, I will touch you. Type of thing, you know. So I don't distance myself just because we second cousin of this and
Is it because we grew up in these big families because of poverty, because of displacement? Yeah, during apartheid we got displaced, so we all kind of had to keep together. It's quite for me. I mean, Americans also try and do that. Black Americans, they've got big families. They do what? What are their parties? They call them.
But they still call their stepdads.
But they've got something else. Food something. They meet because of food. No, they've got
that soul food thing.
Yeah, like where they all bring food and then they call it whatever they call it. I don't know what
it's a good thing that we don't know.
I don't know. So I'm just like, you know what? But I mean, we've stuck to a lot of things that are African. I feel like something like uniform. Yes, most Western countries they don't wear school uniform. Those kids, they just chill, you know. And in South Africa, school uniform is school uniform. We need to know that you are going to school because you cannot walk to school with a crop top. It does not make sense. So we're
very respectful. And another thing that I really like about African culture and our Africans is that we're very respectful. Like a child will know what you speak to a certain person in a certain way. Yes, and if they are disrespectful in any way, it's because they learned it on TV or they went to school and they saw, oh, but Chad speaks to his mom like this, and you're like, no.
Yeah, but I'm not Chad, Lana.
You're like, point a Chad in here. Show me a Chad.
Even when you get into a taxi, you greet.
Yes.
In the bus, when there's an elder person and there are no seats, you stand up as a young person. We do that. We're just a very respectful.
Walking down the streets, your house could be there, corner, and you'll be like, Summer. Voila.
Yes.
And shove it.
That's right. I think so. If us as Africans, if we see someone doing wrong, or like I once slept over at a friend's house and she was of a different race, and we wanted to go to a party and her mom simply said no, it wasn't safe. And she said, no, Mom, you can't tell me that. She stood up to her mom and she said, I am going no matter what. And I said, I'm staying. Sorry about you.
They said we better stay. Girl, we stay.
I even said, how do you even speak to your mom like that? Don't do that. It's not right. So we can't shut up when we see some wrongdoing. Even as parents, if auntie from down the road sees you doing wrong, and tell your mom later. You know what I mean? So we do stand up and correct things. That's what I like about it.
Guys, unfortunately, we've run out of time. It's so sad. Because this is such a cool conversation. Because I feel like there's so many other African and South African things that we really enjoy. But just to close off the show, what is your, if you were you're sitting in a conference room and you've got everybody from Western world, US, what would be your thing that you would say and to position as Africans? What would you say? What would be, if you had 20 seconds to say, this is what it means to me to be an African, and this is where I want to position us.
Firstly, the land that I'm on says I'm an African. It is African soil. Number 2, my surname, where I come from, my ancestors, that's what makes me African. And the drum in my heart.
Awesome.
This is a tough one. I would say
tough questions.
I would say Africa is the present. I feel like if you want to be in the now, you need to be in touch with Africa. I think Africa is it's a part of your soul. I think Africa is the beginning of humanity, and I think it's important for us all to start connecting or reconnecting with who we are.
Hey.
Yeah, I'd say I'd ask my dad to teach me first. And then Zulu, Mageba, Skandava. I'd say because it's not everyone, it's not who has, and even in Africa we preachers, we chant, so that in itself is very African. And for me to stand up in that boardroom and be like, Zulu, Mageba,
And in the way we present it, that's always how you can always tell what the emotion is. Even when we sing, you can sing a simple ooh, the way in which you sing it. The way in which you sing it.
That's amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today in studio on Assertiveness. And I love how assertive you guys are. But yeah, once again, thank you very much for coming through. I always say to people, Africa is open for business. We're not a stain of the world. We've grown up being known as the stain, this little continent, the dark continent. We're here. I mean, come on, we are here, and we're here to exactly. Guys, I want to close off the show with a quote from Kofi Glover. He's a native Ghana and political science professor at the University of South Florida. He says, a shade complexion does not equal a shade culture, nor does it automatically lead to friendships. Whether we like it or not, Africans and African Americans have two different and very distinct cultures. And we need to go out and teach African Americans, to go and teach Western people what is the African culture. We need to stamp it out and say, yay,
this is us.
Be assertive. And on today's show, if you are not assertive, you really cannot be African. And we close off. Thank you very much for watching. Let's do it.